those looking to build a deeper network, you cannot miss this episode with Renée Marino, best-selling author and communication expert. In this episode, we break down 7 simple steps you need to follow so you can powerfully connect with others that will help you build your network and ultimately build your portfolio. Welcome back, everyone. This is Liz. Welcome back to the Real Estate InvestHER Show. So excited to have Renée Marino on our show today. We're going to be talking about communication, building a network, and building connections. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Liz. I'm so happy to be here.
So there's a lot changing in the economy. We're all well aware of that, especially as real estate investors. The ability to communicate well is often linked to building a strong network, which is essential in today's real estate landscape. How do you see mastering communication skills, like really mastering them, playing a pivotal role in fostering the connections and obviously building that lasting network?
Liz, everything in our lives starts with communication. And when we learn to master this skill, we become limitless. Think about it. In business, people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And if we don't know how to communicate confidently and effectively to create those genuine connections, then we're going to miss opportunities in our lives and in our businesses.
I love that. And there's so much to unpack here because so many people are like, yeah, I communicate. Like, what's the big deal? Kind of thing. But mastering communication is a different space. So let's get into that. You talk a lot about effective communication. So let's start here. How do you know, if you're listening to this, right? How do you know you're even an effective communicator? Let's just start there.
We live in a world of complete digital distractions. Every minute of the day, we are pulled from a text message or an email or our kids telling us they want this for lunch. And we're constantly task switching, right? And when I wrote my book, which is called Becoming a Master Communicator, and the reason I say becoming is because we're always in a state of becoming. So even if we think we are the best communicator in the world, we still can always get better and we can always grow. And when we understand that mastering or getting to the level where we're looking to master our communication, that is when the opportunities open up. So to answer your question, you may be sitting there and saying to yourself, well, how do I know if I'm a great communicator? Well, number one, if you have really strong, solid relationships, if you look around you, both in your personal life and in your business life, if you have a great community of other women, I know we do here, a great community of people in your life that you can call upon, that you trust to not just tell you how great you're doing, but also to hold up a mirror for you to say, Liz, I love you so much, but when I spoke to you yesterday, I feel like you kind of ignored what I had to say, for example. So that's a great clue to let you know if you're a great communicator, because remember, we're all reflections of one another. And the first step of what I call my connect method is that communication with self. We have to first get really honest with ourselves, have the conversation within, because that sets the foundation and the framework for all of our external communication.
I can't agree with you more. I really want to jump into your connect method because our listeners love a step-by-step guide. I think that communicating with yourself is very powerful. So tell me a little bit about how you've done that for yourself, even, because I'm sure so much of this is based on your own, what you've experienced and what you see and how you unravel different things. The communication with self. So give me an example. Does that mean like you communicate with someone or you have obviously we're always communicating, even if we're not communicating, right? We're always communicating. So something happens, whether it goes right or wrong, we then like kind of reflect with ourselves. Is that what you mean by that? So walk me through that, but I'd love to hear an example from your own journey, because I think that would give color to this too.
A great practice that I use myself, that I share with clients, is to wake up every day and after you go to the bathroom, do your business, come back to your quiet space, whether that's your bedroom, your office, shut the door, tell your kids, your loved ones, mommy just needs 10 minutes to herself. And instead of doing what many of us often do, which is roll over to the nightstand and grab our smartphone, right? Start checking
Yep.
emails, see what deals came in, or start scrolling on social media and comparing
Yeah.
ourselves to the perceived realities of others. Instead of that, let's honor ourselves by checking in with ourselves and asking this one simple question: how am I feeling? How am I feeling? And then answer by taking pen to paper, part of what I call that old school simplicity way of communicating, and write the answer. Now, Liz, why do I say to write the answer and not type it in the notes app of your phone? Daniel Willingham has noted that students remember what they think about. And when we are writing and we are formulating, writing down the letter that creates the word, that creates the sentence, we are thinking about those things that we're writing. And what that does is locks it into our conscious and subconscious brains, as opposed to when we type, we kind of mindlessly do that. So it doesn't absorb as greatly. So take 5 to 10 minutes and just let the pen go. Even if for the first minute nothing comes up and you're like, I don't know why this Renee girl advised me to write. It's okay. Keep writing. Because what this does is it activates stream of consciousness, and it pulls those thoughts from your subconscious mind that we're often not aware of, that are running the show, quite honestly, into our conscious mind through our hand and onto the page. And what this does is gives us a beautiful picture of what's going on within. Then take a moment to read back what you wrote, and I will tell you, Liz, it can be enlightening. I've had moments where I look back at what I wrote and I'm like, whoa, I thought I was over that argument with my husband, but apparently I'm not, because I'm still writing about it. And this is so important in our lives, because by doing that, number one, we're taking the time to connect with the most important person in our lives, ourselves. And when we do that, we start our day from a grounded place. We're in more alignment. So then when we open the door to our life and we have our external communications, it's coming from a much more authentic space. We can be more patient. We can be more focused when communicating with others.
I love that. Something that I started actually just this year is, for me, I give a lot to other people. And then I realize like then I don't even realize some days how like depleted and frustrated I am. And so that doesn't work, right? That's not my best self. So something I've started doing the last, about a month is creating like a 30-minute focused solitude time a week. Now, obviously I want to have solitude time every day. I love what you're saying, but almost like a journaling time, something that I'm not doing anything else except maybe just what's coming up for me. And, the first time I did it, I got a call from my husband. Was like, where's Sammy's, outfit for gymnastics? Like, I was getting all this like fire at me, of course, because that's when I was going to do my solitude time. But my point in saying that is we schedule what we value. And so put those big rocks in. And if you're not taking enough time for yourself, we stand for that in our community. So I love that you're saying communicating with yourself is first. I love that.
Yeah. And think about this: self care is not selfish, it's a must. And I always think about this in my own life. If my cup is not full and I don't feel clear headed and I don't feel in a great mood or connected within, how could I ever do good for the people in my life that I love, or do good for my clients, or show up as my best self? So redirecting and shifting that perspective that we have around self-care. It is not selfish, it's a must.
Yeah, totally agree. So after you communicated with yourself, walk us through the next steps of this connect method, because so key, right? It's so key to our growth, ourselves as well as our business.
Yes. So step 2 of the connect method is to own who you are. And owning who you are is all about being consistent with your character. See, in this day and age of digital technology that seems to be ruling the world, it's so easy to just show up online in the way that we think we need to impress others, or only share our best stories and our greatest photos. But here's the truth: those parts of ourselves that we often want to hide the most are the parts that connect us with others the most. So think of it like this: when you are connecting with a potential client or business partner, It's wonderful, yes, to share about your accolades and the great things you've done. But remember, we are all human beings. So also talking about when you started your business and you were struggling, just like maybe they are, boom, that creates a connection point. So own who you are. And the way to do this, and this is twofold. Owning who you are is being consistent with your character, both online and off, right? Being the same Renee who meets you in my neighborhood, the same Renee who shows up through my texts, emails, and social media posts. And part two of that is to not only celebrate and share the great parts of yourself, but also own and accept and share those parts of yourselves that maybe you look to as weaknesses, which I like to call areas of opportunity for growth. And when we start owning all of those parts of ourselves, now we can show up as our real authentic selves. And that is what connects with other people in a real way. So think about this. Here are two questions to ask yourself before you send that email. Share that.
We love questions, Renee. This community loves questions.
Good. I love this. Ladies, you're going to love this. So before you send out an email, text message, post online about your business opportunity, ask yourself, number one, would I be comfortable saying this in person? If the answer is yes, great. Post away, text away. If the answer is no, rewrite it in the way you would be comfortable saying it in person. And number two, before you hit send on that email or that text, I know we all move so fast nowadays. It's so easy to press send and then be like, uh-oh, the tone of that email was not the way I intended. To refrain from that, ask yourself, does this message match me and my intention? Does this message match me and my intention? And what this does is it allows you to take a few minutes of space, of a pause before you hit send, to read back over what you wrote and make sure that it's matching who you are and your intention. Because remember this, what we write is a representation of us.
So true. I love what you're saying, because what's coming up for me is that you mentioned it, like a pause. And I like to often say a mindful pause. I was coaching one of our team members. We're growing a team, and communication then has to up level, because now it's just, as people grow, as you bring on more people, communication strategies and openness needs to also increase. And I was talking with her because there's so much going on. So many people are just literally going from one thing to the other, to your point. And honestly, they're depleted of the mindful pause. It's almost like a foreign concept, to be perfectly honest. And all they need to do, and it's hard because I know for me, right? Especially days that I'm recording podcasts, I have calls in the afternoon, but I almost schedule it in. I have lunch scheduled because I have to schedule it, or I won't do it. But in that time, I'm going to like take a mindful pause and like regroup, because I need to get kind of replenished. So ladies and men listening, take that mindful pause, right? It doesn't have to be long, right, Renee? It doesn't have to be like 10 hours.
No, but think of the difference that it makes when you are reaching out to someone who is going to be a potential business partner, and you send that email, and when you read it back over, you realize, oh, this seems really cold. It seems like it's lacking personality. And maybe you just have to add one different word, the change of a word, or an exclamation point. That can sound silly, but let me tell you, that makes a difference. And whether that's fortunate or unfortunate, we do live in a world where we are communicating so often through words and words alone. So we need to take that pause.
So important. I love that. Okay. So own who you are, which is so huge and so important. How about the rest of them?
Yes. So number 3, nail down your information. Now, we are in the real estate space here. We know how important it is to nail down our information, to know what the market's doing, to know the trends that are happening. So before we connect with our clients, before we connect with our team members, let's make sure that we have not only information about our business, about what we are speaking about, but information about the person we're connecting with. There's nothing more impressive when you meet someone and they say to you, wow, Liz, I just love what you're doing with your real estate investor community. I can't believe you are from New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey as well. And you think to yourself, how did she know that? Wow, she
And
took
I'm immediately like, I love you because I am so biased and you're a Jersey girl, right?
exactly. But see how that little thing there, just taking the time to gather information. We are in the age of information, hopping on Google to learn a little bit about the person you're connecting with or the event you're going to, who started it and why. And here's a great tool for you all to use. Think of when you meet someone going 3 levels deep. Instead of just saying, "Oh, what's your name? What do you do?" Go a little bit further with the what, why, how process. So the first question could be, what do you do? What's your name? The next question is, why did you choose this field? Why did you choose to be a part of real estate? What attracted you? And then the how, that third question, which is even deeper, that shows your interest. How do you feel like this is impacting the world on a global scale? Or how do you feel like this is impacting your family by being a part of the real estate community? And just by doing that, it shows that person that you're asking the questions to, wow, they are interested. And if you could be more interested than interesting, that's a key factor to connecting.
Oh, I love that. I want to ask like 3 different questions at the same time. I bet I can't do that. I want to get to something that's the key when you say nail down the info, because there's one piece of this that so many real estate investors miss, especially in today's economy. So many times there's 2 big things that investors are doing right now. They're finding deals, they're finding money. And they could be having success with that, or they could be having challenges with that, or finding team members and partners to work with, right? So they don't do the due diligence on the pains and the challenges of who they're speaking to, to your point. And so for me, right, who do we serve? We serve women. We serve women that are growing their portfolios, that are looking to launch into real estate investing, to build wealth for their families. Okay, that's all great. But if I don't know like what keeps them up at night, what keeps them up at night? What keeps them up at night? And that's something that really I'm interested in knowing, not even knowing, but like really becoming almost like obsessed with. You're not going to be able to serve who you're looking to serve. And so we assume we know everyone's pains and challenges, but getting to know that and getting to know that like your customers in a sense, whether it's finding deals or finding partners or finding the money, what their pains and challenges right now. If you're looking to raise private money, that, people that are looking to lend money or to partner with you, they have pains and challenges. They're not able to find their own deals. So maybe they'll partner with you because you actually have a great deal that they can invest in. You're solving a pain. Right now, that's exactly what people are challenged with. So I love what you're saying, because I just want to give a very specific, especially right now for investors listening.
Yes, that's so important. So important to understand what their pain point is through asking questions. Asking questions to them directly. Remember, you're only 10 conversations away from understanding what that person's, your ideal client, let's call that your prime audience, what their problem is. It's just through having the conversations and taking note of what they're complaining about. And by doing that, and then your own research with everything that you need to understand for yourself, hopping on the World Wide Web, getting the information where you need it, getting the information through your community, right? Leaning on your community members to ask them questions about about things that you may not understand yourself. That's the power of community. And all of this comes down to this point of what I'm sharing is nailing down that information, because the more information you have, the more success you have.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. So what's 4? Can't wait to hear about 4.
4, you're going to love this one, Liz, because this one, next level storytelling.
Ooh.
Understanding that human beings connect through story. So when you're speaking to your lenders, when you're speaking to potential partners that are going to come in, share your story with them. And what I mean by your story is not just, again, listing your resume of the great awards you won. Yes, that's a part of it. But thinking about your origin story, how you got started in this field and why. What was a pivotal moment that happened? Having these stories in your back pocket. So number one, having what I call your origin story. Where you're from, where you grew up. I'm from New Jersey. I was a professional actress for decades on Broadway and film and TV, but I was always obsessed with the way people communicate and connecting. And here I am today. The second story to start developing for yourself is your business story. Whether you're a business owner or you're a part of a company, share how that all came to be. What inspired you? And then another story that I always love to have in your back pocket is that pivotal moment story. That story or that moment in your life that just made you all of a sudden shift your perspective or go from believing this to believing this. Because by sharing these stories, this is what helps people to see us on a human level. And remember, since the beginning of time, we have connected through the power of storytelling.
What comes up for me when I think about that is there's so many women that undersell themselves. And I'm going to be very general, but there's a lot of, and I love men. I love who they are, but there's a lot of men that oversell themselves. And especially when it comes to real estate investing. I'll meet two people at a conference. I'll meet, I'll go up to a guy and say, "Oh, how are you doing? What's your, what are you up to?" He goes, "Oh, I'm killing it. I got 5 properties. I'm amazing." And that's exactly what he says. And then I'll go up to a woman and I'll say, "How are you doing?" I'm just getting started. I'm not too, familiar with real estate investing. I just have 5 properties. They have the same amount of properties, but their way of being around it is literally completely different. And I'm not even making the story up. That is literally what I hear when I go to conferences. And I'm like, I want to shake the women and say, and that's exactly what we're up to in our community is like, these women are badasses, like really. And so tell me a little bit about your thoughts on like, what would you say? What would you say to that woman that undersells herself? Just like I just shared. Like, how do they reconcile that? Because a lot of women struggle with that imposter syndrome or just not being too boastful. For many years, I used to say, I'm involved in multifamily. Meanwhile, we own over 2,000 units. And I used to say those exact words. I'm involved in multifamily. That doesn't even make any sense, right? So I'm curious to get your thoughts on a specific kind of just way of being around this, because it's a real pain point for so many women in our community.
That goes back to step 2, which is owning who you are and making that list for yourself. Make that celebratory list of all the things you've done. I'm talking like be the badass that you are. List all of those things because you're right. As women, we do shortchange ourselves oftentimes. We're so focused on what we haven't done that we don't celebrate what we have done. So it's important to consciously connect with ourselves in that way. And I say, get out that piece of paper, write a list. I'm talking, put on a power prep playlist that we're going to talk about in a minute, like songs that make you feel good, and just start like loving on yourself. Like, wow, I bought this many properties. I sold this many properties. I connected with this many people. I've been an amazing mother. I mean, everything. And then start to flip the script in your head to understand that by you sharing and speaking up, which we're going to talk about in the final step of this method, that's not bragging or boasting. That's you owning who you are. And when we step in our light and our power, we subconsciously give others the green light to do that as well. So think of it, this is really helpful for the women who are listening to this. Instead of thinking of this from a perspective of me, I don't want to talk about what I did. Forget about you and think about the people that you're helping to serve. They need to know how badass you are, and not just to say like, oh, great, I want to work with this person, but to then give them that confidence to say to themselves, well, I need to start celebrating what I do too. It helps to start thinking about the person you're speaking to and how owning who you are is going to help them versus, oh, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging.
Correct. Yeah. And I love the celebration piece. And I also will say for so many women and men listening right now, you've done deals, you've had life experiences that you can, to what Renee's saying, carve into different storytelling, options, and I think about, I've been doing this for 17 years, investing in real estate. The amount of stories that I have that I do speak to, but there's some that I'm like, I haven't really outlined that could be great stories. I'm not just not serving. I like what you're saying. It's about not trying to be promoting, but just trying to share it through story so you can connect and you can really help that other person. Even if people just look at what they've done, what are the stories there? And everything is a story. And I love what you're saying. It's a good reminder. If you have a track record, if you have life experience, you have stories, so I love that. All right. So what were the next few?
The next step is my personal favorite, the E of the Connect method, energize through movement. Movement is our greatest gift to be able to connect. Why? Because when we move our bodies, we shift that stagnant energy and use it as fuel. I hear so often from my clients, whether I'm helping them to share their story on stage or whether I'm helping them to connect through video when they get on camera. I hear like, oh, I'm so nerves. And we have this idea about nerves being this really negative thing. And what I want you to understand is nerves that we all have when we're making the deals, when we're connecting on those phone calls, we all feel those butterflies in our stomach. I want you to understand this. Nerves are just energy. It's all about the label we attach to them. Are they nerves or are they excitement? And when I have taught myself to flip the script and remind myself, wait, when I'm excited, it's the same physical manifestations as when I'm nervous. Boom, it's time to rock this deal. I can't wait to connect with this person. And now it's a shift of energy. So to give you some specific tools to be able to do this, number one, create that, I call it the hashtag Move My Body playlist. Gather a playlist of songs that make you feel unstoppable. Right? Make you feel
But you were a singer, right? You were a singer.
Yes. Many, many years. So create that playlist of songs that make you feel like, woo, I am powerful. I am strong, and put them all on one playlist. And before you're getting ready to meet with that person or have that meeting, play those songs and move your body in whatever way feels good. For me, I've been a dancer my whole life. So I dance around a bit as I'm putting my mascara on, right? Hoping not to poke myself in the eye, but and I just move my body because what it does is it starts utilizing that stagnant energy that I have from laying in bed, and it starts to turn into fuel. And now I'm ready. There's something, I'm sure many of you have heard, a process called grounding, which is just going outside barefoot, walk around for a little bit. As you could bring your music with you if that makes you feel good, but make sure to utilize movement before entering any communication, any conversation, whether it's phone, in person, Zoom, because we have to remember that movement, that's our medicine. And that's what's going to help us to focus and then be able to listen to that person that we're speaking with.
I love that. Movement is the medicine to be a powerful communicator.
Yes.
That's really cool. I've done a lot of personal growth and I've read a lot of books. I've never heard it as called as a medicine. So I like that a lot.
And let me
really good way.
I want to give you a lot of value here. There's a breathing technique that is used by professional actors, athletes, Navy SEALs, and it's called box breathing. And it is so helpful in having you start your day in powerful connection with your breath. So all you do, you breathe in through the mouth for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts, and hold it for 4 counts. So this is something that requires net time, no extra time. You can do this breathing as you're grounding, as you're walking around your space. But again, what this does is it creates movement in your lungs. It creates movement. And what this does is helps you to calm your nervous system down. So that way, when you are communicating with someone, you're able to focus and, as I said, hear what they're saying.
Versus jumping into fight or flight or other pieces of it. Love that. Okay. Very cool.
This brings us perfectly to our next step, which is C, complete listening. Listening to hear and not just to respond. As we can all see nowadays, we can turn on any news channel on any network at any time of day and see a lot of people talking over each other, talking at each other, but never talking with each other. And that is because no one is taking the time to listen in a complete way. Why? Because we have so much going on that we need to tell. And I need to let this lender know all this information, and I need to tell them this. So when that person's speaking, we're not taking in what they have to say. And remember this, when we listen in a complete way, it's a two-way gift. We give the person speaking an open platform to be heard, while we ourselves gain the gift of learning something new. Clue us in to what their pain points are. Gain a new perspective, or what I think is most beautiful, realize we are more alike than we are different. So taking that time, and here are some quick steps to start to become a complete listener. Number one, before that conversation, ground yourself. Feel your feet in the earth, feel your butt in the chair if you're sitting down, and take those deep belly breaths. Number two, become distraction proof. If you are in a meeting, do yourself and that person a favor, put that phone out of sight. Now, that means at a table or even when you're communicating virtually. There was a study done called the iPhone effect that looked at two people in a conversation with a phone simply present on the table. Neither person picked up the phone, neither person looked at the phone, but still the phone proved to lessen the quality of the conversation.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yes. So a quick, easy tidbit that any of us can do, put that phone in your purse or in your suitcase or your backpack and really hone in to that person you're speaking to. Next, make eye contact, have open body language. Sometimes we don't realize it, but we're kind of, shoulders hunched over, arms folded, or like we have our body away. Yeah. And we don't realize we're giving off that energy of like, oh, I'm not that interested or I'm not comfortable. So I think like heart open, right? Like I have my heart open to you, Liz. I want to hear what you have to say. Give them a smile. These are small things that we can shift that make a huge difference. Next, when you want to jump in, we all feel like, oh, I have to say that thing before they're done speaking. That's when we take that power of the pause and go back to the deep box breathing that we shared earlier. Next, catch commonalities. This is a powerful practice. When that person's speaking, listen for things you may have in common. This keeps you present in the conversation, and this gives you connection points. And second to last step, embrace the silence. Oftentimes when a person's done speaking, we jump in right away because we're like, oh, I have to talk. Like they're going to think I don't know what I'm talking about. And I have to talk about what's going on in the market and what happens is we start to fill like with filler words, yeah, and then we wonder why we don't feel like we're being eloquent. It's because we're afraid of the silence. But here's the truth, my friends. When we are listening in an active way, oftentimes we need that second or two to process, to process what was just said. And then when we do that, when it's time to speak, we're speaking from an authentic space. And the last part is to thank that person for sharing their perspective. Thank you so much, Liz. I'm so happy to hear you say that. I never heard it spoken like that. But I first have to say, I can't believe that you're based outside of Philadelphia. I was actually just in Philadelphia 2 days ago. Right? Something simple that I found a connection point, but boom, what happens? Defenses come down. Now you feel a little bit more comfortable, and now the two-way conversation can happen.
You just laid down a lot of great information, Miss Renee. I love what you started with. Listen to hear instead of listening to respond. And I think so much of like the breakdowns in my own communication that happen, even if I pride myself on being a good communicator, it's when that happens, when I'm really listening to respond and not really trying to hear. My husband gave me some feedback this week and I was like, well, what are you talking about? Give me an example. And I almost like telling him to prove why he was feeling the way he did. It didn't go over well. Definitely was not the effective approach to spousal communication. But I laugh because it always comes down to really listen to hear. I didn't hear him. I didn't just accept what he had to say. I was really making him wrong and pretty much just saying, wrong. I have no idea what you're saying. You're completely off. Really not an effective way. So I love that, Renee. I love your 7 steps there to connecting, which then leads to building that network that so many of us want to continue to do so we could build our businesses and portfolios. You have such a wealth of information.
I do want to just interject here because
please.
I need to give you the final step.
Oh, please. Yes. I'm so sorry.
Okay. That's okay. Because what that brings us is to the final step, which is to talk from the heart. And this is such an important piece that brings it all together, because when I say talk from the heart, what I'm referring to is speaking up in our lives. Speaking up, which refers to asking a question, or asking for what you want, addressing something that maybe you're uncomfortable with, or simply sharing your thoughts, opinions, or ideas. Speaking up is our superpower. And when we understand that it's not our right, it's not just our right to speak up, it's our duty. That's when we start creating those genuine connections that lead to building networks and creating opportunities. So especially speaking to the women on this, who are listening, it's time to use our voices, because again, that's why we have the gift to be able to communicate in this way. And for me in my life, as a former professional actress on Broadway and film and TV, I received one of the greatest opportunities of my life, playing the role of Frankie Valli's wife in Clint Eastwood's Jersey Boys film, all because I had the confidence to speak up in the audition room and say, I would really love to read for this role. The story goes on, and that's for another podcast episode. But I want you to understand that speaking up from a place of love and grace is what allows you to create those deep bonds, those connections, because you're being honest with yourself and you're being honest with those you're speaking to.
I love that. Speaking up is not always the easiest thing, but it always gets the best result, right? So I love that. Renee, where can the ladies listening and all the listeners learn more about you? You've shared so many great nuggets today about really stepping up our own communication. So where can they connect with you further?
You can come connect with me on my website, reneemarino.com, ReneeMarino. And there at the bottom of the website, you can shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you thought of the podcast. And on that website, you can grab my book and grab some free resources as well.
Okay, so Renee, we are going to transition here to our fabulous 3 questions. The first one is, what is the most transformational book you have ever read?
The Universe Has Your Back by Gabrielle Bernstein.
I've heard good things about that. I have not read it yet, so I'll add that. What is your most powerful routine that you do to live a financially free and balanced life?
Wake up in the morning, connect with myself first, because when I feel most aligned and I feel ready for the day, then I can have the focus and the energy to tune in and tap into where I need to go, what my financial goals are, and what I need to do to get to those goals.
Love that. Which women, famous or not, has inspired you the most?
Mel Robbins is a big one. Mel Robbins, I love so much because when I speak about authenticity and I speak about connecting with yourself, she is a prime example of it. I mean, anyone who has listened to her podcast, read her books, you feel like she's your best friend. You feel like you know everything about her because she owns all of herself. She doesn't just speak about the highlight reels. She also tunes in, taps into those vulnerable moments. And I believe that's why she has such a beautiful following and why she's changed my life.
Totally love her. I completely agree. Her episodes, every time I hear one of her podcasts, just makes me want to go take some action in a really positive way. So yeah, big fan of Mel Robbins too. Renée, thank you so much for being on our show today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, sharing your specific strategies on how we could just up level such an important area of our lives. And what gives us breath is our communication, so we can really up level our business. So thanks again for being on our show.
Thank you for having me.